Your symptoms are a strange shifting constellation, burning and tingling in your limbs. Yes, but also crushing fatigue, brain fog, headaches, air hunger, and a sense that your body simply isn't producing energy the way it should. You've seen specialist after specialist, each addressing one symptom, none connecting them. There is a possible thread running through all of it, and it may be coming from the building you live or work in, mold, and the toxins it produces. Pain is a signal, and so is fatigue, and so is fog. When these signals cluster together and resist every conventional explanation, I have learned to ask about the environment. Today we examine mycotoxins, the toxic compounds produced by certain molds, and specifically how they suffocate your nerves by shutting down the power plants inside your cells, the mitochondria. I will also be straight with you about where the science is solid and where it is still emerging, because honesty matters more than hype. First, a distinction. Most people think of mold as an allergy problem, sneezing, congestion, asthma. That is real, but it is not what we are discussing. We are discussing mycotoxins, small, potent chemical poisons produced by molds such as certain Aspergillus, Penicillium, and Stachybotrys species. Compounds like ochratoxin A, trichothecenes, and gliotoxin. These are not allergens. They are biologically active toxins that can be inhaled in water-damaged buildings and that interfere with the machinery of your cells. The central mechanism is mitochondrial poisoning. Your mitochondria are the power plants of every cell, producing the energy currency called ATP through a process called oxidative phosphorylation. Nerve cells are enormously energy hungry. They must power electrical signals across long distances and maintain their insulation, so they are especially dependent on healthy mitochondria. Several mycotoxins directly impair mitochondrial function. They can inhibit the electron transport chain and disrupt ATP production, effectively choking the cell's energy supply. When a nerve cannot generate enough energy, it cannot maintain its membrane, repair itself, or transport materials down the axon. It begins to fail from the inside out, energetically suffocated even though oxygen is all around it. The second mechanism is oxidative and inflammatory. Damaged mitochondria leak reactive oxygen species, flooding the cell with free radicals and depleting glutathione, the same antioxidant collapse we see in metabolic and toxic neuropathies. At the same time, mycotoxins provoke a strong immune and inflammatory response. In susceptible individuals, researchers have described a state of chronic, dysregulated inflammation, sometimes accompanied by mast cell activation, that bathes the nervous system in inflammatory signals and amplifies pain. The third piece explains why two people in the same moldy building can have completely different outcomes. There appears to be a genetic susceptibility tied to immune response genes, the HLA system. Some people clear these toxins efficiently. Others, based on their genetics, recirculate them and mount a chronic, self-perpetuating inflammatory response. This is the framework some clinicians call chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I will note plainly, this is an area of active research and real scientific debate. The mitochondrial toxicity of mycotoxins is well documented. The full clinical syndrome is still being characterized. I would rather tell you that honestly than oversell it. In the central nervous system, the energetic and inflammatory assault shows up as the cognitive symptoms patients describe so vividly. Dense brain fog, difficulty finding words, poor concentration, headaches, and mood changes. Because the brain is the most energy-demanding organ in the body, it is often where mitochondrial dysfunction announces itself first and loudest. In the peripheral nervous system, mycotoxin-associated illness frequently presents with small fiber neuropathy, burning, tingling, numbness, and temperature sensitivity in the hands and feet, often alongside autonomic symptoms like lightheadedness on standing, temperature dysregulation, and unusual sweating. The autonomic involvement, the energy collapse, and the cognitive symptoms together form a pattern that, once you recognize it, is hard to unsee. Here's the honest middle ground, and it cuts both ways. The wellness internet has turned toxic mold into a catch-all explanation for every symptom, often paired with thousands of dollars of unproven testing and supplements. That profiteering is real, and it has made many serious physicians dismiss the topic entirely. But the opposite error is just as harmful. Refusing to consider a genuine environmental exposure in a patient with a coherent multi-system picture simply because the topic has been abused by grifters. The toxin is real. The mitochondrial damage is real. The solution is rigor, not zealotry on either side. The most important investigation is your environment. Has your home or workplace had water damage, leaks, or flooding? A professional environmental inspection of the building is often more informative than any blood test. Medically, your physician can evaluate inflammatory and immune markers and rule out the other causes covered in this series. Be cautious with direct-to-consumer urine mycotoxin tests, whose interpretation remains controversial. The exposure history is the cornerstone. At Regenerve, the first and most important step is removing the exposure, because no therapy can outrun an ongoing source. Once you are out of the toxic environment, we focus on restoring cellular energy and calming inflammation. We use intravenous glutathione infusion therapy to replenish the antioxidant defense these toxins destroy and to support detoxification. We deploy infrared light therapy specifically to support mitochondrial recovery and ATP production in energy-starved nerves. We use PEA and C15 lipid supplementation to quiet the inflammatory and mast cell-driven response and protect nerve membranes, and our nutritional counseling supplies the cofactors your mitochondria need to rebuild. Remote patient monitoring lets us track your energy, symptoms, and recovery over time. If your nerves feel like they are running out of power, it may be because at the cellular level they are. Find the source, leave it behind, and rebuild your cellular energy from the ground up. If this finally tied your symptoms together, share it with someone living in an unexplained fog. Visit re-gen-erve.com or text 3148-865902. I am Dr. Padda, and I will see you in our next deep dive.